week's edition of Worldview with me, Suhasini Haider. Tonight, those protests over burqa bans, the rise of the right-wing anti-Islamist groups. The question we're asking is the clash between Islamism and Islamophobia leading to Europe just losing that battle. With me in the studio tonight is Dr. Sreeram Chaulia. He's a professor and the Vice Dean of the Jindal School of International Affairs. And as we said, France is only the tip of that iceberg. Let's quickly look at some of those other countries. The burqa, remember, the face veil has been banned in France, in Belgium, and in the Netherlands already, all in the last few months. Denmark as well, their Prime Minister saying they are likely to clear a ban on the veil, not saying quite when, but it could be by December. Spain's parliament, interestingly, voted against the burqa ban, but it did come up in the parliament. In addition, France has already banned public prayers in any public places. Switzerland, remember, has banned any construction of new minarets, also any use of loudspeakers in mosques. We're looking at perhaps a trend, Dr. Chaulia, and the question really, is the burqa ban likely to spread, not just in Europe, but in other parts of the West as well?
I think we are seeing a high degree of institutional intolerance that's creeping into Western establishments. To put it in another way, the symbolic gestures such as banning of these are reflections of deeper attempts to pander to right-wing fundamentalism, which is white, which is Christian primarily, and to try and create a situation where the ghettoization of Muslim minorities, which had been on for a long while, is now in an advanced stage in the run-up to various elections. The presence of conservative political parties at the helm in most of these countries we've just seen just goes to show how much regimes matter in this kind of politicization of religious minority rights and cultural rights. If there were socialist governments in place, for instance, you probably wouldn't see this extent of victimization and minoritization, which we are now seeing.
Dr. Chaulia, what does this really mean for India? Obviously, in conservative societies, in Eastern societies, there's no question of banning the burqa. Even so, India has taken it up with the visiting French Foreign Minister Alain Juppé, S.M. Krishna, bringing up the turban ban in particular. The question really, it's about religious symbols, but it's also about France's own laws. Let's just listen for a second to what the French Foreign Minister Alain Juppé said.
We have passed a legislation banning the use of religious signs in the open space, in schools and in other officials' buildings. And there is no discrimination against any religion in this law. The Sikh community is treated exactly as the Christian one, or the Jewish one, or the Muslim one.
The question really, Dr. Chaulia, should India be making this a bilateral issue?
I certainly don't think so. I mean, we don't represent, we are a secular state, we don't represent any particular religious group. And therefore, there's no reason at all why we should be advocating. If it's a case of general, say, discrimination or persecution of Indians or people of Indian origin, then there probably is a case. But for a particular religious community, it probably is, we're punching above our weight. It's not going to change anything in terms of France's domestic politics. What has changed are public policies within France, within the Netherlands, within Britain, where conservatives are on the ascendant.
Dr. Chaulia, in our neighborhood, of course, we have many Islamic countries in Southeast Asia as well, but the big worry will remain Pakistan.
Pakistan, the military has not stepped back. In fact, as long as the armed forces continue to remain at the helm of affairs, de facto rulers, they will fan these forces to the point where you have a situation where they are needed for stability and order and for secular order. So the fear is that eventually Pakistan will continue to export terror on a wider scale. That's why the Americans are talking about the new enemy now.
Dr. Sreeram Chaulia, thanks so much for joining us here on Worldview.